Hey everybody, I'm Jody Vance.
And I'm George-Affleck.
And it's time for...
UnSpun!
Are you a coyote, George?
I'm not a werewolf from London, but I could be a coyote from the beautiful 1,000-acre Stanley Park.
Every day. Every day. Closed at 7,
Three
still.
last night.
3.
3 people. Insane.
How, I mean, what would you do? What would George do?
Well, it's interesting because you don't want to be. I remember those movies when I was a kid in the 70s and about the coyote and all those the kills. They had these movies and about culling wild animals in the nature and how that's such a horrible thing and how dare we do this. And there's a big movement about that, and so I'm always sort of like apprehensive about the concept of, reducing a population of any animal by humans on purpose. But at some point, it becomes, us versus them. And we're talking about a park that is for everyone and, mostly for people in the city. And we can't go to it now for almost 12 hours, 15 hours a day. There's restaurants there. This is just one more wham on the restaurants in the whole park.
I really feel for those restaurants. Oh, don't even get me started about the bike lanes. Because I think maybe it's reduced traffic to the park, COVID, lack of tourists, but also people just saying, you know what, I can't go there anymore. So it's just so quiet that the wildlife is coming out of where they used to.
Would you go there with your kid? I wouldn't go there with my kid now.
Oh, hell
no way.
No
way. I'm running out of the bush while I'm riding my bike by. Forget it.
No, but I do go to Pacific Spirit Park where I know there are coyotes, and I do so responsibly, right? I'm not taking food to leave there with me. I don't go at dawn. I don't go at dusk, and that means, my usual walking times can shift over the course of the year because I walk there year round. But I don't go there just after the sun comes up because that's when the coyotes are super active. And you know what? Coyotes walk down our streets here in Kitsilano. I've said this to you before. I've seen a pack of 5 when I was working for breakfast television, getting up and leaving super early in the morning. There was a time where there's a certain time of year, sort of the sweet spot where I would be getting in my car just as the sun was coming up. Much of my life was about when it was still pitch black outside, but there was this sweet spot. And I saw coyotes almost every day on my street. Can you cull every coyote from the Lower Mainland? No. Do you need to do a sweep of Stanley Park to do whatever it takes, whether it's trapping and removing or what have you? I mean, we talked about this before, George, and I'm not sure why it's not more of a conversation. Everybody's talking about, tourists wanting selfies with them and whatever. We have a homeless crisis in the city. Do you not think that there are a lot of people camping and living deep inside that beautiful gem that is Stanley Park?
They might be the problem. They might be the people that are helping to domesticize these animals.
That's what I mean. They're not the problem. It's a food thing. It's a people thing. It's a familiarity problem, right?
They can't reverse this. I think that's the debate, and that's sort of where Bill Thielman's coming from.
Right.
Commissioner John Cooper from Park Board came out strong today and yesterday on this about, okay, it's time. This is enough. And Bill was sort of the front runner on this, the person who took the lead on this controversial move to say get rid of these coyotes, and the movement who says you can't do that. Not only can't you do that, it's not good to do that, it's almost impossible to do it because they'll just come back,
right?
But something has to get done, and it doesn't seem like anything is happening, and it just gets worse. And so you're looking for leadership here, and I don't see it until John sort of came out the last couple of days. I haven't seen any leadership, certainly from our mayor, anybody in the province, or the MLA, the MP,
Park board.
Where are they on this issue?
Anybody?
No, they're not even responding to the chair. I mean, he's not even responding to John. It's brutal. Typical.
Say that again. Like the park board chair is not responding to a park board commissioner. I get it. Like I can't get
or the people of the city. I mean, he's the chair of the park board.
He gets paid extra to respond. He gets paid extra to respond. Both the top two do, and both the top two have been remarkably silent after they got their bike lane in. It makes me just so mad. I think we should take out that bike lane.
Pretty silent about that too.
Let's take out the bike lane, see if increased traffic around the park might have the coyote population pull back.
Well, you never know. I mean, you think the cars are scaring the coyotes away or what?
Yeah, I do.
I don't know. I mean, I think there is a pattern of behavior of this park board.
Yeah, makes me crazy.
Trisha and John aside, who have been very, open to meeting and talking and being public about their opinions. Yeah. The rest of this park board, which is Cope and Green parties, so this alliance that they have been silent on most issues, whether it be Tent City, whether it be the bike lanes. They pushed that through, and now we've got this coyote thing. It's just a lack of leadership, and I know that the mayor has nothing to say about this because it's not his responsibility. But it's still something that he should be weighing in on, as should the MP and MLA in the riding.
I agree,
and they're not. And I think this is people's safety, and people are getting hurt. Children are getting hurt, scarred for life, not only physically, but I was attacked by a crow as a child, and if you've ever been attacked by a dog, it is, and I know it's a crow. People laugh at me when I say, but I was 6 years old. It was traumatic. Yeah. And I still am afraid of crows. And that kind of stuff scars you for life, and you need to take it seriously. And kids are being attacked in our park that we are responsible for as a city. And until the last couple of days, no elected person really was taking responsibility or leadership on this. And thanks to John and Trisha, they're finally doing that. And of course, though, the buck stops at the province. They're the ones who have to make the decision. So what's the MLA saying? And, what's Spencer Chandler Herbert? That's his riding. What's he saying? I haven't heard a peep from him.
Nothing. No, you're right. But perhaps the MLA is thinking Park Board needs to do something here. And I feel for the conservation officers as well. I mean, that. Right. But okay, so let's dial this back a little bit because we're a little inside baseball. Let's take the spin out in terms of Tricia Barker and John Cooper, NPA Park Board commissioners who are handcuffed on so many of these topics because of the Green Cope Alliance, right? Like there is it, and it feels like we're just, Park Board, which people are really frustrated about the Park Board. I am. I've come to the point where I sound like I'm talking in circles on this. But I really appreciate people. I've said this before. People assume I'm an NPA supporter because I speak so frequently to the only two park board commissioners who I can access. And they are like, mow the lawns in our parks. Let's not let things grow wild. So wildlife, blossoms into Brockton Oval. We don't want coyotes living at Prospect Point Restaurant. We don't. Prospect Point Restaurant is apparently allegedly suing the park board or the city about the evening closures. Are you telling people people are getting attacked by coyotes and we're closing the park at 7:00, but still come to our restaurant? How difficult is that? I mean,
no thanks. It's like, no thanks. It's an unbelievable, level of incompetence from these elected people that have the majority control on park board, and lack of leadership from our provincial and federal and city representatives. When you rely on Bill Thielman to take the lead on something, and I like Bill, and he and I are friends. We work together.
Yeah, I like him too.
But he's a hardcore NDPer. And to see him align with the NPA is strange.
Weird.
But here it is. Here we are in Vancouver. This is apolitical in a lot of ways. This is non-partisan, as it were, because I think the majority of people in the city are going, okay, hold on, let's get this done. But then a majority of people don't like a lot of other things, and so it's just like, get it done. But it's getting kicked around, and just like the tent cities and the way they push through the bike lanes.
Let's go to
the lack of interest and care in the actual people who voted these people in.
Okay, so along those lines, different subject. Watching the craziest of crazy people, the anti-vaxxer, anti-maskers protesting at hospitals. I mean, I can't with the inaction that it made me so sick. On one hand, I didn't want to amplify this tiny slice of society that is so vocal and so disgusting and screaming about freedom of speech at the same time as spitting at and shoving journalists. It's just like, this is mental health issue, right? Mental health issues on full display. 90% of people in Vancouver are fully vaccinated, fully immunized. That's something very important to point out. I think it's great. Seeing what was happening up in Kamloops and Kelowna, that is just, I mean, they're little children holding signs with disinformation. I mean, you want to see how this, grows, these protests grow. But what really struck me, George, and you've been in City Hall, you know the inner workings of this. So educate us about what it's like what should have happened with thousands of people on the doorstep of City Hall blocking the street that goes to the hospital.
It's okay. There's a couple of things that sort of to unpack here. One is we've seen this kind of behavior in the States for quite a while now. I think, and we've talked about this balance that Dr. Bonnie Henry's had to play at. How do we unroll or push forward without getting too aggressive, because you don't want it to be us versus them. You don't want these partisan sides to suddenly flare up and look like that's the story. And so intentionally, I think, as much as people think Bonnie Henry hasn't been aggressive enough on the people who are really, pro-vaccine, like we want vaccine and we wear masks.
Shut it down, everybody. Mandate it.
Everybody close down. She said, if I did that, this is what we would get. So you see this protest coming 1 week after we announced that we were going to have these passports. This is an immediate reaction to that, and it's something that you probably could have predicted. But the good news is that almost 90% of us are now vaccinated, and so it's important to keep this in balance, to understand that 90% of us are vaccinated, almost, but soon enough. This represents 10%. It might include some people who are protesting. They may be vaccinated. They're just protesting freedom of speech and protesting access to information and all that kind of stuff, which is a valid argument. And we live in a democracy. We're allowed to have free speech. Where they did it, totally inappropriate. But I think it actually not. When you do this, you embolden both sides. But when you have 90% of the people pretty much supportive of vaccinations now, you have a real challenge as the alternative side, the anti-vax, or this movement, whatever their focus was, which was multi-focus yesterday. And some crazy people and some insincere people who are just believe whatever.
The ones that were spitting on journalists are crazy. I'm going to call those people crazy. The people that are spitting on and yelling at and berating people, that is not a peaceful 100%. Protest. A peaceful protest is what you have a right to do. You can disrupt, but do no harm. And it felt like yesterday got to the point of harmful. And
but what if this had been a year ago? It would have been worse.
Oh, I get you. No, I agree with you. I agree with you. But here we are today. Right? Here we are today. Is it enough for our elected officials, our leaders, to just tweet about it?
No, I think there needs to be, at this point, so far down the line, I think the leadership should have been, more clear about supporting the side that whatever they support. If for example, the mayor or whoever supports these people, then that's fine. Say that. I think it's important to say you support democracy, but we need to keep people safe. This is not safe anymore. But you also know that you can't go in there with the police and riot crews, and it just doesn't work.
No.
So you got to let it run its course. And I think that this group did more damage to itself than it did good. I think now people are really emboldened on the other side, going, "You guys are nuts," and that's not where you want to be. And at this stage, and this far along in the solution phase of this, I think we're going to dissect this for years.
We are.
Every province has done it differently. Every state, every country, who did it right, who did it wrong. But I think the approach, and I've always said this, that a subtle, less aggressive approach is the best approach, because you will embolden both sides, and then that becomes really tough to market to get people to do a thing. And so the slow move towards more strict things so that we can get that last 5 to 7%. If we can get over 90% double vaccinated, we're good.
Yeah.
I mean, there are places, though, you go to England right now, it's wide open. And in the States, pretty much wide open. Alberta, in Manitoba, they're wide open. So Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, they're wide open. They don't care. There's you're going to die. I mean, if you get
that's where we're headed. That's where those people are headed. The trouble that I have with the just let them, because ultimately it's just them that are it's the healthcare workers. The fact that they were in front of the hospital today, and I was going through my Twitter feed, and there was one, I don't have her handle, but in her bio on Twitter, it says she's a breast cancer survivor. And I replied to her, like, I of all of it. Like, I get it. There are people that are just
Mm-hmm.
frustrated by it. They've lost their business. They don't want government to tell them what to do. There are many reasons to protest, and I get that. But to do this in front of a hospital, to do that as somebody who has survived breast cancer because of science, being diagnosed and having it save you, and then blocking the entrance for somebody who maybe is walking in for their first scan or their chemo or their radiation, or to visit someone who's about to die of cancer. Like, these are the things that are lost in this whole, like, we're gonna, like, it makes me
I don't get the logic of protesting there, but you know what it did? It got them their headlines. It got them the coverage. If they'd done it downtown, it wouldn't have gotten as much coverage. And people are protested. They poked at us and they got us going. So, you know, I don't know. That's the thing. It's like, it's horrible that they did it. And it's so tacky and so inappropriate and so mean to those people who have been busting their butts for this past year and a half in those hospitals, and the sick people who are in there, who are in all sorts of states. And, you know, even with kids go to the hospital, it's, you know, nobody likes to go to the hospital, and you certainly don't want this kind of behavior. Kelowna was even worse.
Kelowna was gross. Kamloops was truly something else as well. I mean, seeing the pictures, and
clearly this is strategic. Somebody's organizing this, and it was planned to attack healthcare, you know, locations.
Specific, right? Wasn't it the now I can't remember her name.
Laura Lynn
Taylor Thompson.
I think that's what Jordan Bateman, Jordan from the Global, the other Jordan Armstrong, thank you. Sorry, Jordan Bateman. Although, you know,
not you, Jordan, but we like to drop a Jordan in the. Okay, hang on. Let's make sure that everybody knows how to find us. At UnSpun Podcast is our handle. At George
_.
At Jody Vance, Jody with a Y, at Jody Vance, all on Twitter. And we're happy to hear your reactions on all these things. So make sure you are tuned in and tweeting with us or having discussions with us, because I want to get into federal politics here. And I want to again tap into, you've both been in politics as well as crisis management, campaign planning, you know, managing all things curve communications. Let's talk about where we are at. What's the date today? It's the 2nd. So we're 18 days out. 18 days out.
Yeah.
That's an eternity and an instant.
It's getting close to not an eternity. You're looking at 15, days of hardcore pounding the pavement, electioneering, community outreach, crisscrossing the country. That's, you know, it's a lot. That's not a lot of time. And, you know, so far now we're at a dead heat. It's if keep heading the way we're heading, we're looking at probably a conservative minority potentially. Depends on Ontario. And I think Ontario might be swayed if they feel comfortable with Aaron O'Toole. I think they can be swayed. When with Trudeau attacking banks and things like that now, the C-suite, the executives, the blue-suited guys in Toronto are going to start spreading the word in the ways they do, to say we're not. This is not good.
Yeah, we'll lose money if this happens.
If you get Toronto, in the areas. If this flips to conservatives, then he's done. Trudeau's done. So that the movement and the momentum is on O'Toole's side.
Yeah,
this is the challenge in elections. If you have the momentum and you're driving the agenda, you're driving the bus on the stories, on whatever in the basic sense of this election, and everything's on your way. It's really hard to turn that around for the other guy. So you don't want to be chasing your competition. Now you always want to be the competition behind you.
Right.
And so we have a situation where we have a prime minister, Trudeau, who thought he could sail through this and potentially get a majority, now might end up not even being in power. And to turn that around, and he's going to have to do something spectacular. And I don't see that coming. I don't know what it could be. They haven't really announced a ton, but announcing that they're going to tax bank profits, okay, that's nice, but
that'll just get passed on to the consumer. I mean, banks are magical at it. I don't even
100%.
Understand the fees in my business account, and they keep going up. I do everything online. I haven't been in a bank for 2 years, other than to re-sign my mortgage. I picked up the papers and took them back. And the fees on my and charge more. It's just going to be passed on to us. There's only one taxpayer.
The investment side is where they make all their money. I mean, you and me on our bank accounts, that's nothing. So let's talk about what could shift things. Do you think
the youth vote is going to come out stronger? Do you think that the housewives,
No.
and I hate that term, but the women who aren't the pocket
The
squares
worst
fancy suit?
thing, the worst thing that can happen for the Liberals and the NDP is youth vote doesn't show up, which they won't, because they never do. But they, even if you get a little chunk of them to show up, which Trudeau in 2015 did, got a lot of the youth to come out and they were excited about him.
Yeah.
So that's not going. They're not going to show up because they're going to be like, meh, he's kind of done. Then you've got just general voters in general. Almost, this is like a math thing, but conservative voters, older voters who are generally conservative, show up no matter what.
Yeah.
They show up. They're not apathetic. They're not. They just go. They vote. And it's not a. It's just a generational thing. It happens every generation. As you get older, you vote more strictly.
Well, because it impacts you.
Yeah, and I don't know why younger. I've always voted, so I don't
Me
understand
too.
why people don't vote, but they don't. And so you have now the base of the conservatives always guaranteeing to show up. You have apathetic voters across the board for the Liberals going, I'm not going to, you know what? I'm not going to show up this time. And then you have the NDP having a pretty good momentum as well.
Right.
So anybody who might show up, who would have voted Liberal might go, you know what? I'm going to vote the NDP, which is the Conservatives' dream scenario.
That could give them,
in a lot of flip ridings, they need people to vote NDP so that they can win back those Conservative seats. So, it's not looking good for the Liberals, and I would say that at this point, unless I would say we're heading towards a potential Conservative minority at this stage.
I want to plunk one more piece of this puzzle in here. I was watching Roseanne Archibald, the Assembly of First Nations chief, on CBC News Network the other day. I think it was a couple of days ago. She held sort of a media availability and was speaking about their path forward document, right? So the Assembly of First Nations have put together a path forward document speaking about, obviously truth and reconciliation, the finding of the unmarked burials and the monies that are being put towards that by the federal government. And she was asked some pretty specific questions and a couple of things that I just want to point out here that I found interesting, and it's nothing more than just informing, but traditionally speaking, in speaking with people like Ellis Ross, who is part of our provincial government here, obviously, and well-known story of getting into politics and why, many First Nations peoples would not partake perhaps in an election because it is the ultimate act of colonialism. And there was this moment with Roseanne Archibald where she was specifically asked, what's your message to First Nations when it comes to this election? And she answered with one word: vote. And then she was asked, unlike past Assembly of First Nations chiefs who have come before her, because she's newly elected, she did not align herself with one party. And her reason being is, I have to work with whoever it is. So I found it really interesting that, and the message, and I consume a lot of news, George, as you do too, that people might have seen that or hear her message and maybe vote for the very first time.
Okay.
So where would they go? But where would that vote go? Because nobody has really put a platform that speaks to meaningful change. Like maybe that's the thing that happens in the next 18 days, that somebody actually says, if this happens, I will change the Indian Act.
I would bet that even in the First Nations, Aboriginal and Indigenous community, I've never seen a poll on this, to be honest. Maybe they exist on voting patterns, that whatever they might be. But I bet you it's pretty comparable to how we all vote. Like if you're younger, you vote left. When you're when you're in your 20s and 30s, you'll kind of go to the center. And then when you get older, you start going to the right. I bet you it's the same in the Aboriginal, Indigenous, First Nations communities across this country.
Yeah.
And so the same would then apply in this election, as I just said, is that you can say that, and you can try to get people to motivate to vote. But if there's apathy and you're looking at your leader that you might vote for, which if you're a Liberal, you're going to go, meh. If you're NDP, you're going to, he's all right. And then you're going, Conservatives, he's got good momentum. He's not the devil that I thought he was going to be. Gosh, maybe
the last time the Conservatives got booted, there was such an anti-Harper sentiment, right?
Yeah, but they still got the majority popular vote, the Conservatives, in the last election. So it's just by the way our structured ridings are that the Liberals won that election. So they won the popular vote last election with their previous leader, which wasn't Stephen Harper. And who was it? Does it matter?
No.
It's painful, but that's the way life in politics.
Yeah.
So it's Aaron O'Toole's game right now. He's coming across as the positive, hopeful guy. He really is.
T-shirt wearing, and he's very hip.
Yeah. Well, and that would be now a stumble to a certain degree, but we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. Was that strategic? Was that intentional?
People talked,
and was those silly other videos they did, was that intentional?
News cycle.
Got people talking.
Yeah.
Maybe we put the conservatives. Oh, we had such low expectations that when he started his campaign, you're like, oh, I had such low expectations. He's
I didn't
not so
think
bad
I'd be
for
hearing
all.
from him. But the one thing that got me though now is that with the platforms being released, the Liberal platform has been officially shared, which I thought was really weird with Liberal leader Justin Trudeau off camera, like not looking into the camera, but kind of over here explaining it to people. I thought that's odd. And then I saw Aaron O'Toole basically like, we're going to balance the budget. We haven't done the costing yet. But we're
Are you telling election promise is not possible? What are you saying?
Oh my God.
Come on.
So funny. I will update you on one very important fact that you're invested in. Rhubarb gin. Remember the rhubarb gin?
Well, Amanda, she's the magical power of the rhubarb gin making machine.
It's so delicious. I can't even. I finally got to try it. Also delicious. Do you know?
Which, by the way, is just chopping up rhubarb and throwing it in a bottle of gin or vodka. It doesn't matter.
It's called ginny, and you leave it on the shelf for 6 weeks, and then it tastes delicious. You know that really famous guy, Reynolds? He's on Twitter a lot. You know that guy? He's got the booze. No, the other one. So not Ryan Reynolds, Stuart Reynolds. So he's Brittle Star. You know the guy that does the Brittle Star?
Yeah.
So he's got vodka that is butter tart vodka. Okay.
Oh.
Butter tart vodka. So I don't know what possessed me. I ordered it. It's at sexandgold.ca. That's his website, sexandgold.ca. Weird. Butter tart vodka. And I got it yesterday. I'm just pointing over there. A flavored. Yeah. Hold on.
Is this like pumpkin lattes? Because I'm not interested.
No.
Oh boy. Your camera's alive now. It's moving. Where's it going? Oh, okay. Nice. So a bottle of S&G. What's S&G?
S&G, sexandgold.ca is where you get it. Not expensive. And it drinks kind of like a whiskey. I got to tell you. So butter tart vodka. I'm officially Canadian now, I guess. I've always been Canadian.
When is the pumpkin vodka coming out?
I don't like pumpkin spice anything. But you know what else I like? I like doing this. I like being able to see you once a week, even if we haven't been in the same room. We see each other. I don't mind having a camera on. You don't mind having a camera on. Look at you.
Hey.
Your face for it.
And for those listening, we both have faces for radio. So.
Yeah, we totally do. Thanks, buddy. But some people are really stressed out about the mandatory cameras on. So I wrote about that for my middle this week, and it got a little bit of feedback. And I want your opinion on it because I thought you were.
Well, I gave you my opinion on Twitter. For me, it's been a glorious thing from a business point of view. So I can use two examples. Amazing for business because. When I used to tell people, can we have a Zoom call? They'd be like, what is Zoom? Now it's like, we're going to Zoom. No big deal. Yeah. And most clients are fine in the business sector to talk on camera. They're just totally cool with it. It's like meeting in person. And if you're ugly or whatever, you're ugly in person, you're ugly on camera. Don't worry about it. Yeah. But I know that people are pressured. And I certainly if someone wants to keep the camera off, maybe there's makeup that can help you. I don't know. But have I gone too far?
You've gone too far. If you're ugly in person, you're ugly on camera. I think we should get a T-shirt made for you on that one. No, for me, it's about people who are shy.
Zoom's been huge for Amanda, like her family. I mean, without Zoom, without cameras, it's been amazing for that stuff.
No question. So my column is not about whether or not Zoom is good or FaceTime is good. Of course it is. I love it. There's a connection there. I love it when my kid is away and I can still have some FaceTime. I can see his face and know he's okay. But it's
or if he's lying.
Or if he's lying. It's the email that I get from work that has the link to the meeting of the all staff, whatever. And it says, all cameras on, please. Cameras on. For me, I'm like, well, that doesn't bug me. But I know a lot of people that I work with who are just not comfortable with the little light, and we know how to prepare ourselves to go on camera. We've done this numerous times. We know And at the same time, I have to say, I kind of miss, being on the phone and doodling and thinking and not being like, okay, I need to actively listen to what. So I was trying to find some middle. Go figure.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a good column, and I think it definitely got people chatting. And I think that we just have to accept that some people are not, and don't judge them if they don't want to be in it. And it might be, time of day. It could be all sorts of reasons. But the technology is pretty amazing as far as how we're able to now just do this through Wi-Fi or whatever. It's amazing.
Eventually, I'm coming back into that room, though. I miss sitting with you and laughing and kicking you under the table when I think you're wrong.
Which is often. I have to tidy it up. It's quite a mess behind this camera. It's like just chaos.
Oh.
Yeah, I keep it
now
tidy.
I want to know. You take a picture of that and send it to me.
Yeah, okay.
Say goodbye, George.
Bye-bye.